I fucked that up. Say
Yeah,
something.
you did.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay,
Are
hold
you-
on.
Okay, well, we're live anyway.
I love that.
Great.
Why, why even pretend that we know what we're doing? Let's just carry it on. Welcome, everybody that can hear the sound of my voice to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where Kevin will be playing his music in the background that we can still hear.
The
And he's
whole
still doing
show.
it. And he's still doing.
God
Not
damn
like
it.
we're monetized anyway.
Yeah, it's not like we're ever going to get enough views to be monetized. Alrighty then. So joining me as always is Kevin and Nikki. Kevin, Nikki, say hi.
Hi. He's just he's
He's
jamming out to
just yeah,
Tumblewumba.
he's just jamming out to Chumbawamba.
You hear me?
Yes.
No. God. Hello?
This is brilliant. This is just even by our low standards, this is great.
This is bullshit.
Stop playing the music.
I'm
Leave
trying.
the hangout and come back.
I love that. I'm trying.
Well, like he's just
Okay, hold
sitting
on.
there with this massive
Hold on.
boombox that's just playing, and he's like, "How do I switch it off?" Okay.
My mouse is screwed up. That's what the problem is. Hold on.
Great. Good. Oh, he's muted himself. Okay. Do you know what? I should have just done that myself. Anyway, did you have a good week, Nikki?
I did.
Good.
It was Thanksgiving. Segway. I'm just kidding.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving meal?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Made a good turkey. Made a bunch
Oh,
of
yeah.
other stuff.
Delicious.
Food was had. It was enjoyed.
Can't go wrong with a bit of delicious food.
Exactly. You don't
So,
understand. You're British.
you mean I understand good food. I cook a lot.
What?
Anyway, we have been asked by a fan of the show to do a live debunk. And he has provided this video for us to watch that we can debunk.
Okay.
What's going on with Kevin? Is he like dead?
Oh, no.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear
Can
us?
you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Did you hear what I said? A live debunk
Oh, okay.
of this video from Graham McKnight. Grimy? How do you say that name? Grimy? Is that Graham? Is that just a weird way of spelling Graham? Oh,
I would have pronounced it Graham, but I'm mostly illiterate, so.
Yeah, that is Graham. Graham McKnight.
So Graham McKnight would like us to debunk this video. Are you two ready?
Yes.
Did you see it?
Yes.
Dust mote.
Desmo. Nikki says Desmo. Kevin, what do you say?
It's a tough one because of the fact that I would say that most likely somebody would say it was dust for sure. But I will say that that in situations like this where it's daytime, to have a particle of dust that goes across there like that, it's weird. Um, because of the thing that a lot of the IR that shows up off a camera lens, for example, whenever you're at night, is because of the reflectiveness behind the thing. I'd want to know if there was lights behind the camera
Or to the side. I mean, you see dust motes when it's light.
Yeah,
and there's usually a direct source of light from the sun.
Right. Well, that's true. It could be the sun. Yeah. I'm saying, I'd have to know a lot more.
Well, he's playing with his cat with a laser pointer, I think the laser pointer's reflected in the camera.
It
That's what
very
I
well
think.
could have. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Could be.
Like it went off of the floor.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because like when he moves it up there behind the door,
Hmm.
that's when the moat appeared there. See,
Right.
Yeah.
laser pointer.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's a reflection of the laser pointer.
I like that. I didn't even notice the laser pointer.
I would
Clear,
say
concise.
yeah, it's you know, like I said with all things, whenever I take this approach with everything, I always
Hmm.
try to ask some questions like, did you feel anything? Were you having strange occurrences in the house, anything like that? Because you'd be surprised how many people, even in Bigfoot, who are the biggest skeptics that you could imagine, are convinced that they have, for example, spirits or ghosts in their house. And I'm not going to say who it is,
Hmm.
but you know, the phenomenon usually goes along with other things. I would always base it on the fact that if you have more than one, uh, factor, that obviously adds to it. This is one factor that I suppose you could easily dismiss. You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, if it was just me looking at it from that standpoint, I'd say dust.
Kevin says dust. I say laser pointer. Nikki casting vote.
I said dust to begin with.
Oh, so you're sticking
You
with
act,
dust.
you acting like it's Kevin's idea to say
No, it's
dust.
not my idea.
It was
Certainly not.
totally Kevin's
My
idea.
thing is whatever it is being totally natural and space is way higher than it actually being a ghost. And that's coming from someone who, believes in ghosts. So
Oh yeah.
Luminous Grin says it's swamp gas from a weather balloon that was trapped in a thermal pocket and reflected the light from Venus.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd buy that one. Yeah.
Well, you see,
sure.
this is the thing where Project Blue Book did more to harm people's ideas than it did to help it, because of
Hmm.
the fact that they did come up with bullshit excuses like that nobody took seriously. Then everything became a conspiracy. It's kind of like Project Blue Book is kind of the beginning of conspiracy theories that go mainstream, because you're trying to explain unknown phenomena with kind of crappy excuses that can easily be. I mean, although you're trying to debunk the cover story can easily be debunked. That's my opinion.
Maybe that was its purpose.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Maybe
know.
that was Project Blue Box's entire purpose was to spread as much misinformation about UFOs to draw attention away from the fact that aliens crash landed in New York City in 1961.
New York City.
In 1961.
Well, it could be. I mean, all I'm saying is, you know, it does leave that sort of that idea of the so bad it's got to be something uh, idea that a lot of people have, like
Hmm.
secretly that he is um, coming up with such a BS excuse that Heineck was definitely then breadcrumbing it. You see what I'm saying? He's leaving a breadcrumb trail, and so because of that, that's. I mean, if you think about it, right? Did we really have times where we thought, for example, governments would lie to us, before World War II? I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? But definitely post World War II, that's all we ever think about is the fact that governments lie to us. That's all governments do. I mean, obviously, if governments lie, they've always lied. But for some reason, there seems to be some line in the sand for some people that determines the fact of this is when government started lying. But I don't see it that way. I just see it as one of those things where um yeah, and now everybody's a conspiracy theorist, you know. And that's just why the thing you any phenomenon that we come up with, Bigfoot, whatever, this ghost, government knows, and they're keeping it from us. That's just, I mean, look at anything else. Look at the fact that people are dying in Dallas, Fort Worth, waiting for the return of John F. Kennedy Jr. because he's coming back with Donald Trump to win the 2024 election.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe that over a lot of other conspiracy theories. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we are neither pro or anti-Trump on this podcast,
No,
but no, we don't
no,
care
but I'm
either way.
just saying that would be a heck of a thing to pull off. Is all I'm saying. Is to cover up a man's death for 20 some years, and then he has been working in secret in a secret government to come back and save America from itself, apparently.
So there's a lot of conspiracy theories revolving around famous people like that, like the idea that Elvis is still alive, or Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee is my favourite one. He faked his death to go undercover to fight crime in Hong Kong.
Right.
And that Elvis Presley also faked his death to go undercover to fight crime. Because that's who I would use if I wanted an undercover agent, was one of the most famous, recognisable people in the world.
Well, he was good with firearms, and he at least could hit a TV.
Maybe there is no crime in Hong Kong. Maybe it's all former celebrities in false moustaches
Well,
wandering around bars. Any crime going on here?
No crime.
well, because of the whole conspiracy theory about the triads and running of the movies and everything, you can believe that that it was a hit on him. You know what I mean? That one of those things where like definitely one of those situations where Bruce Lee, you could make the argument, was sort of killed by this these Chinese tongs, and because he wouldn't cooperate with it, and he wouldn't go along with the mafia connections involved in the movie industry. That's what happened. I don't know if that's true, but that's what a lot of people would tend to believe. You know.
That's fair play to them, but it's preposterous. I mean,
You
they
think
had a
that's
funeral.
yeah.
His body was seen by a lot of people. I mean, it's just people that just wish they weren't really dead.
Right.
Like you wishing that, disco was ever any good.
Oh yeah.
It's a nice
Disco
little dream.
Disco is not dead. That's what I can say. I'm still looking
It
at it.
faked his death to fight crime.
You wonder where ABBA is now.
That's great.
ABBA has formed a 4-person super group, and they're
Four person super group.
and they fight crime under the name Super Trooper.
I love it.
I love the Flight of the Conchords reference there. That's good. Um, oh, that's brilliant. Disco's not dead. It just faked its death. Brilliant.
Yes.
But it's funny we're talking about these UFOs conspiracies, because that's actually going to be the topic for next week. I've suddenly remembered. We're going to be talking about the Todd Standing of the UFO world at Stan Romanek.
Ugh.
Whoa.
Well, there's a guy that's close to you that lives in Yorkshire who's a big UFO person.
What was that? Ugh, from Niki.
Just
What?
nothing.
Say no, come on.
No. I don't want to.
You
Do
don't want to
do
what?
Are you familiar with this person, Nikki?
Mildly is just the I'm sorry. Was the topic itself, because I just started thinking about all the crazy people in the UFO community.
There's some nutters, but not many of them have a Muppet video comparable to Todd Standing's video.
Right. And I will say the thing about the UFO, I think that the lizard people thing is weirder. I was reading about some lady today that was like this high, this author that said that her husband was not really her husband, that it was really some lizard man trying to, have sex with her.
Hmm.
So I
How
mean,
would that even work? Because they've got cloaca. They don't really usually have like the same organs we do.
well, well,
I
that's
love
just
that. That's where your problem with this all
no,
stems.
no. I'm into it. Richard and
Well,
I,
from a logistical point of view,
yeah,
Nikki, it's important.
we want to know how the mechanics work. We're dudes.
Yeah. I mean, it's all well and good having a dragon fetish, but logistically speaking, how's that going to work without you being crushed or split down the middle?
What?
Split down the middle. That's one of my favorite porno movies.
Wow.
I'm just
I'm just saying, you know, how would you? How do the logistics of having sex with a dragon work?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. Right. So
But
this
it's
reptilian
not the
thing.
same. It's
well,
not.
yeah. It's a purely
They're
mental thing, Richard.
different.
That's what you got to understand. Women have sex with their minds, not with their bodies.
No, no.
Pretty sure Nikki would have sex with anything.
Wow.
But anyway, well, oh god, I'm just totally lost now. Well, what were you
Cool.
saying?
Hey, talking about like stuff. Thanksgiving.
Good segue.
Are you gonna say?
Thanks.
Are you segueing that fast, Nikki?
Uh,
Because if you're uncomfortable, I will get it. I'll go there.
no, it's okay. I was just, I was just
I'm
thinking
just saying, you
about
know, the logistics of reptilian.
a reptilian isn't like the same size as a dragon. So why would you compare the two?
Right. And one
You
thing I have to
weirdo.
note for you: have you never seen the TV series V, Richard? That lady had a dragon baby.
That's
That was
true, but
that was the hope of it. Somehow
that
she
was
got along. Somehow a reptile in a skin suit figured out a way to inseminate that lady who lived in Los Angeles.
yeah, but
And
that's the point, isn't it? I mean, that was a TV show.
exactly, but that's where most of these things come from. I'm convinced that most of the phenomena that we spend time worrying about are previously on TV
Oh
or
yeah,
movies.
pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
Reptiles came from the movie V. Simulation theory came from the Matrix.
right. You
There
know,
was simulation theory before the Matrix.
Uh-huh.
Philip K. Dick.
That wasn't simulation. That was just a Christian pretending to be a scientist.
Yeah, but he's literally like the the father of that kind of concept.
yeah, the Dick theory of for example, the man in the high castle, you know,
He
corresponding.
believed. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying corresponding multiverse
Mhm.
theory and things like that. You know, it
Mhm.
just goes into the idea of that you could travel from one uh, uh, dimension to another and make a big change, and therefore everything spirals out from that. But somebody would then say, "Is that not just a computer simulation?" You see what I'm saying? I agree with
Yeah, well,
Nikki
I
in
mean,
that
like he
standpoint.
truly believed that we were in one. So just
Right. And it's
you
sort of
know
like the you know, the Blade Runner idea of the fact that these people live their whole life not knowing that they're replicants.
exactly.
Yeah, is my point.
Yep, yep. Richard just wanted to pretend he knew who I was talking about.
Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick.
I know who Philip K. Dick is.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's lots of good
Oh, so
there on Amazon there was
No,
a
no,
lot.
no, no. Let her finish, Kevin.
Oh,
She wants
okay.
to get a little digs in. Go on.
no, I was gonna say, Kevin agreed with me. Did you just get quiet because you were wrong?
No, I was letting you two talk. I'm not gonna talk over people when they're talking, Nikki.
Okay.
I'm usually wrong. That's my default position. I don't mind being wrong. You're the one that has a problem being wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as I'm concerned, because I'm married, this is the only 1 hour a week where I possibly can be right. So I just get overjoyed by it.
That's very true.
As long as you're agreeing with me, you are correct.
So, do you not want to talk about Stan Romanek next week, Nikki?
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it.
She's
Yeah.
down.
I'm down.
She just made the ugh noise.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
just
but
my default sound when I'm talking to you.
but that's
Yeah, it's true.
but Nikki making that noise is really good. I mean, let's face it. Nikki's reaction could be its own show. We could just have a, you know what? I'm sure that if Nikki just had a podcast called Nikki Watches TV and Reacts to It, that would be more popular than this because me and you wouldn't be on it, Richard. It would just be
Aww.
Nikki. It would just be Nikki going, "Oh, ah," and then she'd occasionally say something like, "Oh, that's odd." And dude, every like horny teenager and man would be like, "Oh yeah, did you see what Nikki did this time when she was watching, uh, you know, the Dukes of Hazard or something like that?" I mean, it's you could. It's like if Nikki was. I mean, we don't have it in America, but you know what I'm talking about. Gogglebox. Gogglebox,
I
Richard.
hate that show so much.
Right, but it's just basically British people watching TV and
I hate the
reacting to it.
concept of it. I hate the fact that it's successful. I hate everything about Gogglebox.
Right, but if we had a show called Nikki's Box, and we showed that, I mean,
Fucking hell, Kevin.
I mean,
Best
maybe
show ever, Nikki's
we'll
Box.
we'll have, we'll have to change the name. I get it. Okay.
Obviously, we'd have to change the name.
That's just a working title. But I'm saying that if we I'm sorry. Okay. Stuff comes out of my mouth before I even think about it. That's one of those moments where my tongue was working faster than my brain on that one.
Hey, my box doesn't mind. Oh, good grief.
You could probably sell that to Netflix.
Nikki's Box.
Where Kevin's
Uh,
tongue works faster than his mind.
and
Oh,
his
that's
mouth
even worse.
randomly fills up with things.
That's even worse. That's oh my god. Oh my
Great.
gosh. And it doesn't take much to make, I'm a trooper, it does it, it's I got a little bit embarrassed there. I'm sorry.
Oh, I could tell. I was like, "Are you blushing?"
I could
I
hear him
was I
blushing.
was
Little
I was
Kevin.
stumbling all over myself and everything. Well,
Made an Irish man blush.
right.
Check.
Nice
And
Right
one,
off
Nicky.
my Yep.
and speaking of boxes, you know who brought over 142 pairs of shoes to America in a box?
Wait, in just one box?
Yeah.
142 pairs of shoes in one box.
Yes.
That was an
Big
impressive
ass
box.
box.
Yes. So,
Um,
yes, he had a big box. It was a big box on the Mayflower, and he was a pilgrim.
Good segue. Up to our
Yeah.
usual standard, but take it away. Give us
I,
the history of Thanksgiving.
that was even probably better. Well, so basically, what I'm trying to get at is these people came to America, the pilgrims. Of course, what I don't understand is why pilgrims are more famous, and I'll never understand this, than the Virginian people. Of course, obviously, Roanoke, North Carolina was the first colony. It failed. Nobody knows what happened.
Aliens and
Yeah,
zombies.
aliens. The
Alien
Virginia.
zombies.
Yes. So no,
that would be
nobody
cool and
nobody
terrifying.
knows what happened. So then in 1607, Jamestown just formed. They struggle, and it's not until 1620 something that these pilgrims come to America and settle in, Plymouth. And so, therefore, they left Plymouth and then, therefore, several weeks and months later, landed in Plymouth. What That's awesome. I think. But they left Plymouth in England. Okay, but the Puritans were not, you know, I don't think what I think is funny is when I was reading the history of Puritan people and things like all these different factors, we have to realize that English history gets tied into the history of the Puritans quite a lot. And uh, Queen Elizabeth did not like Puritans. That's for sure. And so she basically chased them out of England, and they all went to Holland, where there were other Puritans. And
She didn't
they
like much of anything.
no, no, no. She didn't like she did not like anybody other than Anglicans. That's basically her story. Whereas if you were anything other than an Anglican, then that's the way it is. A lot of people always put it into, oh, well, it was Protestant versus Catholic. It was this. It was that. It wasn't. It was
Hmm.
Anglicans against everybody at that point in time. And so she chases them off their land. They go to Holland and then eventually end up coming to America on the Mayflower. There's supposed to be two ships. I think we've talked about this before, the Speedwell and the Mayflower. The Speedwell has got holes in it, it doesn't make it. And so it gets turned back. And so all these people who were clearly under the idea that the Lord would provide. And that's the most important thing. They didn't need to prepare. They didn't need to do anything. Learn, talk to anybody from Virginia about what possibly you could plant, what you would live off, or anything like that. That they were going to go there, and that was it. Now,
Good plan. I like that plan.
well, it's a good plan. I mean, if you your stand by your man, if it was, I. But anyway, they get
I knew that was coming too.
well, because I'm
Mm.
just saying, if God's going to provide for you, take it in the nuts if He doesn't. That's all I'm saying. But
Oh,
well, you know, I well anyway. So we they get to America, and he uh, people obviously start building these different things, and then next thing you know, of course, they start to run out of food. They don't know what crops to plant. They're just unfamiliar with the land, and so people start starving. Um, now, the Squanto, who was a American native, who ended up uh, saving the colony, if you look at it from that standpoint, by providing them with food and things like that. Um, he spoke English, and that was one of the reasons that they lived, was because Squanto had actually been to Europe before these people actually even showed up in North America. So we don't really look at the fact that Squanto was a world traveler and decided, probably was the reason that he decided to save the colonists, because if he hadn't been exposed to that, I mean, you would imagine that most people would just say those people can't make it, and so we're going to leave them. You know what I mean? That's the way that goes. But because Squanto was a world person and had been to Europe and everything like that, and returned to that area, that he probably had some motivation to understand how large Europe was in comparison, in population wise, to the American people, the Native Americans. And so therefore he thought, well, we should get in their good books. I'm just speaking from a political standpoint here. So
right, right.
Quanto was probably a pretty smart politician. And so he decided that, you know, as with everything, there's always new ships showing up. So let's be nice to him, and then um, let's go from there. So he provides them with food. Now, the thing about it is we don't really know what they ate. We assume there's no evidence that there was a turkey at all. So it's an interesting thing that that we end up eating turkey, but it was more likely that they ate venison and lobster and things like that. Of course, lobster being very, very plentiful at the time, and really kind of interestingly, kind of thought as a poor man's food back then. That only
Lobster.
lobster, yeah, because lobster was so plentiful, you could just go pick it up off the beach, and everything else, like crabs or other types of shellfish. Like we would go down to the beach and just pick up crabs and that and boil them up and everything like that. That they were not. They were kind of thought as kind of like bottom feeders. You know what I mean? And which
Yeah,
kind
they
of
are technically trash fish.
yeah, that they were
I mean,
garbage.
they are. The way you
Yeah,
catch them is.
yeah. So they are kind of a garbage fish, and
Hmm.
so that which is interesting because of, as you know, Richard, the British government classified crabs, lobsters, and octopi, cephalopods, uh, as sentient beings this week in the news.
Really?
Yes,
Octopus and squid and cuttlefish are cephalopods.
Absolutely.
yes,
Definitely.
right,
Crabs and lobsters are cetaceans.
right. Well, I meant, yeah, okay. Thanks for correcting me. But that,
You're
no,
welcome, Kevin.
no, but I'm just saying the British government now says that they can feel pain, and so therefore they are sentient beings. So
That
not
sucks
only
to be an octopus then. I know what otters do to octopus, so
right. So if you think about it, there was more than just one, you know, uh, species at the Thanksgiving dinner because they threw the they threw the lobsters in the pot and then they died and then they ate them. But they knew they were there.
delicious lobster.
Hmm.
Mm.
They didn't have butter like we do now, though.
The
Yeah.
secret ingredient is terror.
But so, the thing that I'll say about that is, but everybody thinks, okay, well, that's just it. It's a nice holiday right before Christmas. And, and that's a nice thing to do. Not realizing that Puritans did not celebrate Christmas.
Of
Puritans
course they
didn't.
didn't. It's not a real holiday anymore.
Right. That's what their point was. And that's why they didn't like, that's why the English people didn't like Puritans really. And later on, whenever Oliver Cromwell, who was a Puritan, took over as the defender of the empire, whatever it was, that he was
Placeholder.
yes, he was king in all but name. But let's just look at it that way. When he was
What
there,
an
people paid
utter waste of a civil war. What an
right.
absolute total waste. What was the point in him even winning? That's what I want to know.
Well, the English Civil War again. It's if you look at it between an English Civil War and more of a war between three kingdoms, Ireland, Scotland, and um, England, that kind of makes more sense. Whereas elements in Scotland, elements in Ireland, and elements in Britain um, uh, obviously did it. I mean, obviously, part of when Oliver Cromwell wanted to end the Civil War, he had to invade Scotland because of the fact that that was the problem at that point in time. So it wasn't just a civil war, but anyway, he was kind of a bummer. He didn't like music, didn't like dancing, didn't like anything, didn't like Christmas because Christmas is not. It's said in the Bible. There's nothing in the Bible that says you should celebrate Christmas. And they thought of it as a pagan holiday, which
Which it
It
was.
was.
yeah, let's go ahead. Let me spoiler alert, it totally is. And so therefore,
Hate to
uh,
break the little religious bubble there, but it's
right.
totally a pagan holiday.
So as much as all that happened, the Puritans did not like the idea of the at Christmas time, the Lord of Misrule and all these different people doing all these different bad paganistic things around Christmas time, especially on Boxing Day when basically the tables were flipped and everybody that was in the house who worked for the master kind of turned the tables on the lords and ladies. And so that was that. They also didn't celebrate any other holy day. They didn't observe any holy day.
This religion just sounds like a total freaking bummer. What was even the point in it?
Yeah, they didn't.
So they were the original, the OG Jehovah Witnesses.
Yes, they were ultra OG. Sucks to be part of. You would want to be there, type of thing. They also didn't
It's,
celebrate Easter, by the way.
well, Easter's not even a real thing.
And they,
Like I've
yeah,
always been sort of iffy about the whole Easter thing. I mean, eggs, bunnies, Jesus rising from the dead. I mean, where's the connection there? Somebody help me out here.
well, there isn't one.
Yeah.
And the reason that they didn't want to celebrate it was because guess what? It's a pagan holiday.
I rate Easter below Valentine's Day in terms of holidays that make sense.
Oh no, it totally makes sense if you're a pagan. I mean, like I'm saying, they didn't celebrate May Day. They wouldn't let you put up a maypole, obviously, because that's a pagan holiday. They wouldn't
Yeah.
let you.
What? No
Yeah,
Morris dancers. You can't have
no.
no. Okay, I'm glad those people were all shipped off to America.
So
Just
what I'm saying is if people think again that these people were a laugh riot to be around, I'm saying that 98% of Christians today could not have lived with the Puritans. That is kind of what I'm getting at.
doesn't sound like anybody could live with Puritans. It sounds like even other Puritans couldn't hang around other Puritans. You're
Yeah.
just like, I mean, could they
Well,
even
yeah.
hang around members of the opposite sex, or would that be considered whoa?
Well, if you think about it, that's where we get the idea of course, the Scarlet Letter comes out of that, and the
Mhm.
idea of the Salem witch trials later on in history, which again were in Puritan communities.
Well, that whole thing makes a lot more sense to me now. And to be honest, I used to feel bad for those witches that got hanged, but now I'm just like, well, they got off easy. At least I didn't have to live in that bummer
At
of a
least they didn't have to
community
get
anymore.
boiled in a hot pot of water.
Exactly.
Right. And so, they actually,
We threw Kevin. Did you hear that? He totally stumbled.
He was like,
We threw him off.
right.
right. But what I'm going to say is that they actually called Easter the Devil's Day in America for a long time.
No,
You,
I don't rate Easter.
yeah, and so therefore you can look it up if you go to the Massachusetts Historical Society. You can read all the sermons they had against any holidays because they basically it was all about the devil. In other words, the
Hmm.
devil was in any. It seems to me like the devil was in any kind of enjoyment whatsoever. So that was it. But
Makes
anyway,
sense.
yeah. So therefore, so since they didn't celebrate any kind of holidays that we celebrate now, what did they celebrate? Well, there was four holidays that they did celebrate, Thanksgiving being one. So they basically, in the puritanical view of American holidays, you would get 4 days off, which I'm pretty sure that's all we get now if you're in
Mhm.
America. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve or whatever, which they also didn't celebrate New Year's Eve and New Year's Day because they
Of
thought,
course they didn't. Why would they?
well, no, they thought that the actual start um, of the year started in March, so that was fun. So
I
New
mean,
Year's,
these people, they just sound like that guy at the party that's determined to bring it down no matter what. Like,
right?
oh, your kid was just born. You must be happy about that.
Well,
No. He's been born into a lifetime of misery and suffering for our Lord. Why would I be happy about that?
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I agree, Richard. And not to
mm,
mention, they would not have supported disco. So there's one thing that would have been similar. Okay, so if you look at it that way, not
disco would have just been like even more offensive to them than it is to me. They'd have just been like, "What
Or
is
would it have
this?"
been great? Because it's
Yeah,
all
no,
about
that's
suffering.
it's all about suffering, so they probably like disco.
well, right. I'm just saying that if somebody could go back in time and just, gone to the thing. I mean, if somebody asked me if I could go back in time to see the first Thanksgiving, would I? And I guess my answer would be yes, but only if I could take like a fistful of ease with me and just totally drop it into the water. Because could you imagine the first Thanksgiving when they were tripping balls on MDMA or something? That would have been freaking awesome.
They
That's
are.
all.
They probably already were.
Yeah, I mean them Native Americans would have been passing around the peyote, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
smoke.
sure that they.
Is it racist to say smoke the peace pipe? I mean, is that
No.
okay in today's society?
I don't think that that is PC.
Well, if that's the thing. Well, the other thing that they didn't celebrate was Black Friday, or what they refer to it as African American Friday.
I knew that shit was coming.
That's
I don't know
awful.
why I
Well, no, I
thought
thought
that.
since Richard, I was throwing Richard a lifeline, if you know what I'm saying there.
Oh,
Yeah,
got you.
and okay, well, so anyway, so again, they would have hated the idea of the commercialization of a pagan holiday even more than the idea of the pagan holiday itself, i.e., Christmas.
Hey, that
And so,
sounds like me. That's kind of my
yeah,
deal.
right. Well, the other thing that I would say too is that, of course, we do refer to it as being on the last Thursday of the month of November. Uh, Although I will say this, they did not use the terms Monday through Sunday because they were named after, guess what, pagan gods. So they would call it Sunday was the first day of the week.
Hmm.
Monday was the second day of the week. And so again, they didn't refer to months as
What?
yes. So if you were
So how would you say we'd be like, three threes from now, three
right,
third days from now?
exactly. That's what you would have to
Oh, that
say.
just sounds needlessly complicated.
Well, that's why they would do it. And they did not use months either because obviously
Oh, what's
July,
that? What is wrong with what? What's wrong with months? Who's
because
got a problem with months?
July is named after Julius Caesar. And so
Oh,
therefore, so March the 1st was the first day of the first month. And that's how you would refer to the dates. So therefore, if I was born on May the 1st, which again, pagan holiday, May Day, we would have, and no Morris dancers. So therefore, I would be born on the first day of the third month.
how could you not have Morris dancers? Do they just wake up on May and just be like, oh, 'tis the third month and is the third day.
Yeah. So
We'll
I'm
go
thinking,
build a barn because that's the only thing that brings us joy. But we'll probably get splinters and die because we're a bunch of miserable cunts.
yes, they definitely were. And I'm saying that if we went back in history, we would have, you know, if most Americans went back in history, they would rather hang out with the Native Americans than the Pilgrims. But somehow we've come to love these guys. And I don't understand. And they didn't observe Christmas in New England until well into like the 1800s. It was actually against the law to celebrate Christmas for a long time. And nobody,
Man,
Nikki
if
would enjoy
only.
that.
yes,
Right? I was just like, that sounds great.
yeah.
Can we do that again, please?
So, and the idea of America being founded on the idea of uh, a sort of freedom of religion. Eh.
Freedom of religion, as long as you're Christian.
Well, yeah, and New England and in New England, as long as you were Puritan, that's all I can say about that. But
I don't like these Puritans. They sound like a bunch of wank pheasants.
well, no, this is what I'm saying, and that's why basically by the end of the 1600s, everybody in England was so. I mean, basically, let's look at it this way: after the 10 years of Oliver Cromwell having a Puritan England, everybody was so overjoyed when King Charles II came back that they couldn't stand it anymore. You know what I mean? 10 years of living through that in England was enough for them to say, you know how we
It
killed your dad?
explains it explains why after Oliver Cromwell died, they hung, drew, and quartered him.
Yes.
That
Because
actually explains it. I would have done exactly the same thing. Been
yes,
like, right, well, we're not doing that again.
right,
That's probably why we had kings after, even though they lost the Civil War, because they were like, okay, that's the alternative. We'll have kings. Everything makes so much sense now.
right. It basically comes down to the fact that they would rather have a king than live in New England.
Than live, live under Puritan rule, where they just play disco music 24/7.
Right, and
And
that was the I mean, let's say it. England was not perfect, the American colonies were not perfect, as we know. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of romanticism that goes on between it, and I'm not trying to like spoil anybody's day or whatever, because there's so many people who say, "Oh yeah," well, like Reese Witherspoon, for example, right? I think it was Reese Witherspoon or somebody like that. I know that one of her ancestors signed the Declaration of Independence, but there's lots of people who can trace themselves back to they were on the Mayflower. Oh, my family was on the Mayflower. Blah, blah, blah. Well, all I'm just saying is they were probably miserable and not much fun to be at parties.
can you imagine that? How long did it take back then? Like 6 weeks? No, 3 months, didn't it, to cross to America from England on a
Yeah,
sailboat?
usually 3 months. Yeah, yeah,
3 months on a ship with a bunch of Puritans
yeah,
that woke up every morning and just were like, "Oh, the sun's risen. Didn't expect that, but we
yeah,
might get blind from the sun's rays.
yeah. But
So,
but
yay."
again, that would be again when your whole basis of religion is sort of based on suffering, which it sounds like it was, right? Denial and suffering, then therefore that would be the perfect place for you. And
So
that's
is
what
that
I'm
the
saying.
origin of Thanksgiving then? The Native Americans, in a desperate attempt to cheer these miserable bastards up, gave them a decent meal.
Yeah, that basically Squanto came to their rescue. And then, of course, then because if you look at it, right, there's arguments and that historians have made that the Algonquin Round Table or the Algonquin tribes of Confederation of Tribes were actually the most democratic society in total that the world had ever seen. I know that
Hmm.
we don't know for sure because of the fact that obviously they were not literate in the fact that that's was, but the descriptions of the Algonquin tribes and how they're described by various people um, were that they were very democratic as a society. And so it's kind of interesting to me that we went from a very democratic society to a very non democratic society very quickly, and then consider that to be the birth of democracy in America.
Good old democracy.
Yes, because obviously that's the way it was. But we think of it in terms of how we think of it. We don't test. Like I said, it's like I said, in a lot of ways we would sort of understand the Native Americans more than we would the Puritans, even if they spoke English and went from there. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't. Things change, people change, as the expose song goes. Seasons change, and and that's the way that goes. So, um, anyway, they saved that. So thank the Native Americans because they did save the the Massachusetts types folks who came here. And then, of course, later on, that area was settled by the Dutch too. They claimed that. Obviously, New York was officially originally New Amsterdam. So, and that was Dutch. The Dutch colonies then got taken over and became New York. So that's kind of an interesting story too.
Hmm.
We're covering a lot of American history here.
But that's the thing. That's the thing that I think a lot of people, you know, it's obviously, I would not want to be a pilgrim. That's all I'm saying.
I wouldn't want to be a Puritan. That sounds like
I
a
would,
miserable existence.
yes, I would have much rather rocked up in Virginia for sure. That's all I'm saying. Uh, because at
I
least they.
mean, early settlers to America, and it's so rough.
Oh
I
yeah, no, I'm
mean,
saying yeah, it's terrible. From that standpoint, it was a very hard existence. But at the time, life quality wise, as you look at it, it was much better. If you were a Puritan, it was better to be a Puritan in America for sure than it was to be a Puritan in Europe, because at least you were after the time of the Thanksgiving and everything like that. You actually started growing to a larger extent. People had multiple people in their family. People did have land to farm and things like that. So, if you were a Puritan, it was definitely better to be a Puritan in America than it was to be a Puritan in either Holland or uh, or England. So because they're just the ability to move and grow and everything like that. I mean, people became much larger, and the difference in but after the first, say for example, 160 years, they actually had gotten to the fact where on average the average American was about 3 inches taller than the average Englishman because of nutrition. So rather than having that. So rather than believing that, uh, all that stuff about that, obviously nutrition was much better in America and things like that. So there you go.
now we know. And knowing is half the battle.
Yes, as GI Joe says.
So, Nikki, question.
Yes.
You have to choose. You're an early American settler, and you have to choose between living with Puritans or alien zombies.
Alien zombies?
Hmm.
Are they
Hmm.
running zombies?
They're alien zombies. Who knows what they can do?
But can they run or not? Like, I need to
I don't
know
know.
this
They
before I.
wiped out the Roanoke colony. All we know is that alien zombies were involved.
I'd probably work with the zombies because I would be burned at the stake if I had to be around Puritans.
Hmm.
It probably wouldn't. I wouldn't even make it 15 minutes before they were like, "No, kill her. She's of the devil."
Yeah. No, I can't even disagree with you.
Well,
Maybe the Roanoke.
what do you think, Richard? Okay, so you've got your choice. Let's look at the three major uh, British colonies at that time. Okay, so let's think about it. You've got to choose from Jamestown, Plymouth, or again the first colony in on British North America, Newfoundland.
What with the Vikings?
no. Obviously, no. John Cabot established Newfoundland as the first. That was the first official British colony that actually landed. So, in order, so, so whereas Roanoke was the first colony, it went dead. In between that time, uh, they Newfoundland was the colony at Newfoundland was formed, and then after that, Jamestown was formed. So if you look at it from that standpoint, and if you've ever met anybody from Newfoundland, they sound like they're all from the Republic of Ireland. So would you rather show up to a place that sounded like people from the Republic of Ireland, or people from England, which all the people from Jamestown were, or Puritans from Holland?
Let's say Newfoundland.
I think I'd go for Newfoundland too,
Hmm.
because obviously, people in Newfoundland, their main trade was, of course, cod, salting cod and sending it back. That's how they kept themselves viable that way. So at least we know two things: uh, people sounded like they were from Ireland. They believed in fairies, which they did, and you could get decent fish and chips. Sorted.
All right, yeah. I'm on board with Operation Newfoundland.
I think so. And Nikki's
Hmm.
just stone silent.
I was just listening.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was there. Okay. Well, that's
Well,
all I
all
got.
right then. Yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I have there, folks.
Do
Hopefully
you know
that.
what? Do you know what? I've been sitting here thinking for the last 5 minutes. What if it wasn't alien zombies that wiped out the colony on Roanoke?
What do you think it was?
What?
Democrats?
What if they faked their death to fight crime undercover in Hong Kong?
I think
That's
so.
awesome.
I
That's
think
what
so.
happened. They all fake their
Right.
deaths. We're
Yes.
fighting crime.
They're
Right.
not dead, but must let the world believe that they are, so they can
Yes.
bring in all those Hong Kong gangsters. Oh,
Right.
that's great. I don't
Just
see
like
that getting old anytime soon.
just like King Arthur, when we call them and America's in their need, when we need them, they will come back.
We've done a roll lately with inside jokes. We've had the steam-powered submarines, the not deer. Now this
Yes.
faking your death to fight crime undercover in Hong Kong thing is brilliant. I'm loving it. Loving it. We've been on a roll. We've been on a roll, ladies and gentlemen, but that'll wrap us up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many, where we will discuss famed UFO hoaxer Stan Romanek. Oh, I was waiting for Nikki to make the gash
Ugh.
noise. There we go. There we
Yeah.
go. So, it's good night from me, and it's good night from Kevin and Nikki.
Judy,
Night.
bye.
This guy wasn't dead. It faked his death to go fight crime undercover.